welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Quest, with me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by Spirit. I am very excited to share my gift with you and empower you to embrace your gift. So if you define yourself as a spiritual human being, then you've come to the right place. So prepare yourself now for an amazing journey where your soul will lead the way. Welcome to a new episode of the Spiritual Quest podcast. If you listen to any of my previous episodes, you probably know by now that I trust the guidance of Spirit and I choose to follow my heart and soul. And that's how I ended up reaching out to my next guest. She's a Danish actress and artist turned professional numerologist and writer living in Los Angeles. Through 12-step programs, internationally acclaimed acting training, and spiritual mentorship, she has explored the keys to illuminating the human condition through all her work. And after the life-altering experience of changing her name with the help of numerology, she was called to study and master this field. Personally, I know very little about numerology, so this session is going to be enlightening. It's my pleasure to introduce my next guest, Novalee Wilder. Welcome to Spiritual Quest.
Thank you. Thank you, Vibeke. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you here. And I must admit, I've been thinking about you all day, questioning what does numerology mean? And I know you're the founder of the Numerology School. So who better to ask questions about numerology than you, right?
Yeah, true.
That is true.
Yeah. So I should share maybe a little bit about what numerology is, because I think some people have, or people might have like a preconceptions about numerology. But I call numerology kind of astrology's practical sister, where I find that all spiritual fields have merit. But most of them are actually founded on numbers. Astrology couldn't exist without numbers, couldn't exist without the planets and the degrees, and so on and so forth. So without the numbers, it wouldn't exist. And numerology is a numbers game. So numbers are in everything, and numbers are an expression of energy. So they are in your birthday, which is the most important thing a numerologist can look at. They're in your name, they're in your house number, they're in your phone number, they are, everywhere around you. They are even like in business, in prices, in everything. So we are all under the influence of numbers throughout our life. And if one gets called to study numerology, then there's probably like maybe some lessons around what we can change through numbers, and understanding like, well, why do I feel this way when I'm in this house number? Or why am I attracted to people that all share the same energy in their birthday? Like, what is the pattern here? What am I trying to work through? Have I like maybe misunderstood this is part of my work? Have I maybe misunderstood what I'm here for? Have I maybe thought that all the things that make me wrong and horrible and not good enough, have I misunderstood it and not realized that these are some of my biggest gifts and biggest lessons and something I can share with others? So numerology is all of it.
That's huge. I mean, that's more than I expected, to be honest. Very interesting. But to get started, I would love to learn more about how you discovered numerology.
Yeah. So I used to be an actor. I do think that once you're an actor, you're forever an actor. But I used to study acting. I studied acting for many years in different schools and constellations of people. And at some point, I got very disillusioned. I lived in Denmark. I was like, I'm not getting into the schools I want to go into. I don't feel like I belong to this group of people anymore. And I started looking outside of Denmark, and I found a school in New York, and I applied and I got in and I moved to New York. And so everything in my life changed, because it does. When you move not just countries, but like continents.
Mm.
And, like a different language, different people, different culture, everything. And during my first semester at that school, I realized that I was repeating patterns. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the exact same things that I've worked through so many times. I think we all have had those moments where, like, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm expecting a different outcome. What is going on? And I had a friend who, like, a while before this had changed her name, had seen a numerologist and changed her name. And I knew her really well. So I knew what she had been struggling with for many years. And so many of those things just kind of disappeared or released or changed. And I was like, what is this? Are we doing this now? Like, first it was gluten, and then it was crystals, and then we were getting palm readings, and then we were doing meditation. Are we now changing our names? Like, is this the next step of like this path? And I just thought, what the hell? Let's do it. So I booked a session with a numerologist, and in very like rebellious fashion, I thought they might not be able to like, they might just give me whatever name. I can always change it and change it back. It's like very like, if it doesn't work, I'll just change it back. So I had the session, and the neurologist was very, I don't want to call her rude, but she was very there were no gloves on, is that how we say it? Like, it was very specific and direct, and it was very hurtful to me because I thought I was better hidden. Like, I thought I was less easy to read, or like, I was just like, how can you know these things? This is really uncomfortable. Ugh. And she said, well, we can change these things if you change your name. And I was like, okay. So I changed my name. And at that point, I changed my whole name. Many people go to a numerologist and only have to change a spelling or, a last or a first name. But I didn't have anything I could keep. And I am a little bit like, go big or go home. I'm like, if you're going to do it, just do it, because you usually regret what you don't do more than what you do. So I just went for it and changed my whole name. And I mean, I can list a bunch of things like, I lost a lot of weight. I found the love of my life after having been single for like almost a decade. We won the green card lottery, which meant that we could live and work in the US. And as we were both from Europe, that was like, maybe not 1 in a million, but like the chances of winning the green card lottery in the US are like small. And a lot of things, like maybe even things in my family where there were certain patterns where I was like, oh, I can now just observe this pattern. And I find this is the true test of your spiritual journey, when your family no longer irritates or triggers you. And I'm not saying my family never does that, but I'm just saying that some of those patterns, I was like, I thought this was a forever thing. Like forever, I would just have to deal with this. So many things changed externally. But for me, there was the internal stuff that really changed everything. And then made me go, how does this work? Why does this work? Why does it work differently for different people? Why do I need that name? Could I have another name? Like, the whole like why and how and why and how.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I have to stop you because I have all those questions now that you just mentioned. So,
Yeah.
did all of what you just said, the amazing story, actually happen just by you changing your name?
I think we can give a name change a lot of power, and it really, really does have a lot of power. But you are the most powerful person and energy in your life. So I think a lot of the things and energies had kind of been waiting for me. And my name change was the door that I had to walk through, or the thing I had to remove. Sometimes with names, people get obsessed with like, well, I want this name vibration because it promised me that I'm going to be lucky in love or good with money or whatever. Where sometimes it's what we remove. As a numerologist, where I'm like, I'm trying to remove what stands in your way so you can just get to do you more. Because the more you do you, the more you feel like you have I don't know, access is everything. Permission is everything. Over and over again, I find it for myself and other people, like giving people permission to do what they already want to do, but they
You-
sometimes need someone else to say, "Go forth, do it bigger, do it more." So yeah, my name change definitely changed. I mean, there's thing I had never really been lucky, but let's be clear. I'm a white, able-bodied, cis presenting person, so of course I am a privileged person in life. There are certain things that I can do easier than other people, but I do find that I wasn't like lucky. I wasn't like very often in the right place at the right time. Like later, after I studied numerology and I became a numerologist, when someone reached out and was like, "Do you want to write a book about this?" I was like, "This is not. This is synchronicity." And like, I put writer in my bio because I was writing blog posts and everything, and I was like, "I'm a writer. Come on now." Uh, but that someone reached out and was like, "Hey, so do you want to write a book about it in English with like an actual publishing house?" I was like, "This is more than what I think my own energy could have done." I needed the support of a harmonious name. I think I needed that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by how you explain it because I can see similarities between being a
Mm-hmm.
channel and having my spirit guide Zarias with me since I grew up. I've seen the other side and have had encounters in this dimension with beings from
Mm-hmm.
higher dimensions. And so to me, it's when you're talking about changing your name or not only changing your name, but peeling back the layers that is or the bad patterns that keeps you stuck or earthbound, which like to look
Mm-hmm.
at it. I actually was given a name. I'm trained a hypnotherapist by the Michael Newton Institute. I did that in 2012. And during my training, I actually got my spirit name. And
Mm-hmm.
I have that recording, and it's not too long ago I listened to it and I was sobbing. I was crying so bad because the power of knowing my spirit name
Mm.
just released. I mean, everything. I was not no more that human being with the limiting mind or the daughter or the sister or the wife or the mother. I
Yeah.
was suddenly just spirit free, and I had this awareness of me being so much more just by tuning into that name and accepting it.
Yeah.
So is that when I explain that, do you think that's similarities or is it the
I
same
think
or
there
not?
are elements here. I think one of the things that happen when people change their name is that we face a lot of, whether it's culture or ego or just having a human experience of thinking, um, my parents gave me this name. Maybe there's a story. Maybe you're named after someone. Maybe you're named after someone they don't like anymore. Maybe you're named after someone you heard a bad story about. Maybe you're named something that's hard to spell. Maybe you're named something that sounds weird in another language that you use a lot. Like there's so many. Like our names are hugely entangled in culture and history, and many people go through and also finding numerology or like just the thought of name change as a way to like unwrap that,
Mm,
like untangle it, free it. I find that every time you release one of those ego beliefs that I can only be whatever it is, then you get closer to the whole, like, I'm a spirit. What
mm,
is it, like I'm a
yeah.
spirit having a human experience, and you just detach. And every time you detach, I think what usually fills people is like love and acceptance and permission and all those good words, and we give ourselves permission to be a little bit bigger. And some of the things that people say, for example, before a name change, they're like, "Oh, I don't know what my mom's going to say," or "I don't know if I should share it," or "What will people think?" Or I also hear that like people who pick a new name that sounds very similar to their old name, or is their old name just spelled differently, they're like, "I don't want to take the fight. I don't want to," they get very, like, the whole thing gets blown out of complete proportion. And on the other side, they realize, oh, it was just a name. It was just a role. It was just a limit. And on the other side, it does not matter. so much. You know, your name is hopefully a sound that people who love you make to get your attention.
Oh, I
You
love
know, they
that.
say, you know,
Oh, say that
Vivek,
again. I love that. I say that again. You said it's
is
just a
your
sound.
name is a sound that people who love you say to get your attention.
Yes.
And then to me, that is like maybe all that it is. I also do understand that sometimes there's a reclamation happening. Some people need to reclaim a culture or a connection or identity through a name, and I totally honor that. But as someone who's now changed her name like a little bit and more than once, I'm like, the actual name does not matter so much as the release of identity, because that just helps a little bit. It helps most people to do that. And I think also, yeah, I got some very feminist beliefs also around people being named after just like they're the males in a family. You know, like when you study, which I have done, and I don't have to do that as a numerologist, but like the culture and identity around like why did we start having last names and how have they changed over time, and the whole like women as property and children as property and everything as property, or like, you know, living in the US, why so many people of color have names that connect them to the founding fathers.
Mm.
You know, like, and all slaves in the US were also named by their, there's some issues here beyond just like the spiritual aspect where like, and everything, if people are contemplating a name change, everything comes up in it, like both the like very earthly, you know, part of it and the spiritual aspect. And some people get stuck also on that journey of like finding the right name, and there
You
can
really
only
got me
be
thinking
one.
because oh, wow, I knew this conversation would really make me think and go through my personal life, but I love that. That's what, this is spiritual quest. I'm on a spiritual journey and I will be learning something new every single day, and I'm open and tuning myself
Mm-hmm.
into this. But I must admit, I have a middle name that I do
Mm-hmm.
not use. And why
Yeah.
do I not use it? It's because I learned from my mother that she didn't want me to have that name, but my father absolutely
Yeah.
wanted me to have
See?
that name. And it was just, and actually it's a
Yeah.
nice name. It's called Merete. And so Vibeke
Mm-hmm.
Merete. But I always use Vibeke and never, I don't even write Merete. And my youngest daughter asked me, well, why don't you just, you know, change your name, not have that Merete if you don't like it? And I started to reflect on that. And I said, well, I guess it's part of my journey. So I looked at it as there's something more I need to explore before I make a decision or I let it go or I
Mm.
embrace it.
Yeah.
And so you're now telling me all this, and I'm going, whoa, there's stuff going on
But it's
here that
also
I.
we tell children very early on what their name means, and sometimes like a story like, yeah, I didn't like that name. Or like I heard from someone, this was not my family, but someone says, yeah, my mom told me she's the last of her siblings, you know, like the youngest of her siblings, and her mom told her, you were the only one I really wanted. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't know if I want to call it trauma, but like the story of that. And what if the other siblings hear it? And I'm sure the mom is happy that she had all the kids, but you know, like maybe the others weren't planned, or, and the same thing with names. It's just like sometimes the stories that grown up like kind of just throw at you in passing become like such a big part of our identity. And it's just, yeah, what I want to say just is like also for people listening and watching is like, if something in your name like irks you or make you interesting, then maybe yes, like researching numerology and see like the energy behind it can be like an interesting thing to do. And I just want to put a caveat in here to say like, if you find people who are very negative in their way of explaining numerology or the energies, just like find someone else.
Mhm.
Just find someone else. I had a talk with a feng shui teacher recently, and she talked about like if you go back and you read old feng shui uh, text, and it's the same. If you go back and read like old numerology texts, everything is very doom and gloom, and there are very good things and very bad things, and it's very extreme, and it's very like Old Testament spirituality. And I just say, like, for people interested, like, find a teacher or a writer or someone where you like the overall feel of what they present. Because I've also had clients reach out who literally thought they were cursed by a name they had. And I was like, you are never cursed. Like, I'm not using any of those words, but I'm just like all spiritual field. They're like the ones that like to put everything in extremes. And I'm not, like, I think we should be honest about the influences that are in a name and a numeroscope and so on and so forth. But I think we should also just, it doesn't do anyone good to get scared.
Yeah. You're right. Thank you for clearing that. I think that's important, super important, actually, when you're seeking to find any spiritual teacher or coaches or practices. Make sure that you follow your intuition, follow your heart and soul, allow the guidance of spirit if you wish. It's super important because you will receive on that vibration. And if you're not being held in that space of love, it's easy to choose fear instead of love.
Yeah.
Because we do make those choices every single day. And I have this practice, actually, when I feel myself reacting to what's going on, or something is being said, or something happens where I react in a low vibrational vibration, I usually just stop. I become very still and aware, and I ask myself this simple question. As I ask myself, do you choose love or do you choose fear? It's so much easier to, when in that consciousness of choosing love, I can immediately feel the fear of that situation or whatever is going on release instantly. Yeah. And of course, that didn't come overnight. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've been working on releasing patterns and limiting beliefs as well. So, but I just think it's so important. So thank you for bringing that up. But I have another question when it comes to numerology, because we talked about name changes, but look at our themes or themes in our lives, like career, a family. You mentioned relationship, that everything, you became lucky in love and all that when you, the outcome of changing your name. So how do we use numerology in our daily lives? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. So at the core of numerology are the 9 numbers. Everything beyond 9 is just a repetition. So if you get to 10, that is a 1. So we have the 9 numbers, and people are a combination of numbers. So there's the day you were born, there's the month, and there's the year. So we look at all of these things. And based on that, you have some gifts, and you have some challenges, and you have some lessons to learn. And the more you go do those, the more your life unfolds. And the more you understand other people's gifts and challenges and lessons, the easier it becomes to accept them and help them. Because people are not like me. Not everyone is like me. I'm a 1 in numerology. I was born on the 28th. 2 plus 8 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. So if you're born on a double-digit day, you add the numbers together and you find the single digit, and that is your first base number. So knowing I'm a 1, I know certain things about myself, and I know that I'm going to react to certain people a certain way. And I'm going to stop judging other people by my standards or my beliefs or my life goals, because my life goals are very specific. We have certain numbers that have to do with leadership. And for example, if you're a leadership number, there are certain challenges in that. And if you're born in a female body, for example, people are going to have an opinion about how you express those leadership qualities, how you think you know what should be done, what would be most practical, efficient, yada, yada, yada. Like all of these things, you're just going to do it intuitively. If you're born in a female body, you might get some of those limits on you, like bossy or bitchy or egotistical or maybe not feminine or whatever. And so I found when I look at certain patterns in my life that there are certain people I will compete with, and they are either leaders like myself, and so it can be a healthy competition, or it's people who thought they were supposed to be in leadership. And yeah, everyone can be a leader, but not everyone has it like as part of their numerology setup. And so I will get really pissed because something in me reads them as, you're not you're not in my playing field. We are not doing that. You need to do something else with your life. And people will, I see this in people. So this is also how I help people. Sometimes it's not about name change. Sometimes it's about understanding the people they hire. And I'm like, you keep hiring yourself.
Oh,
You
yeah.
keep hiring people who have almost the same setup, and then you want them to be under you.
Mm.
And of course, they are not going to stay for long
You're
because you are helping them. You are modeling maybe leadership in a certain way to them. And they're like, if she can do it, I can do it too. So let me go do that. Or we try to make people into what we are, and we're like, you're supposed to be faster, stronger, harder. You're supposed to be all these things. And maybe they have a life theme, an energy, a base number that's about having fun and being creative and taking it slow and feeling their feelings. And then I can't be like, you need to run faster. I need more output. So understanding, I mean, as soon as I hear someone's birthday, sure, I have some expectations of them, but I also they have more leeway actually with me. There's certain things where I'm going to never criticize them for certain things because I'm like, that is just what you're supposed to do in that direction. You do not need my input. Who could do it better than you? You know, like, one of the benefits or good things about being a one in numerology is that we're really good cheerleaders. So that's part of my job. That's also a leadership skill, by the way.
So
Good leaders
numbers,
are
if I
really good
understand,
cheerleaders.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Novalee. Um, Knowing the numbers, when I hear you speak, it's also knowing your positive sides and your negative sides, more or less. You become
Yes.
aware of,
Everything is a spectrum. Yes.
yeah. So now I'm really curious. If I give you my birth date, will you be
Yes.
able to say something about me? Good and bad.
Sure.
I'm open. I am completely
Sure.
open. So my birthday is October 26th,
Mm-hmm.
1975.
70. Yeah, so you're an 8 and a 4. October, is that Scorpio? Are you right on
Yes, Scorpio.
the. Yes. Okay. Powerful combination.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so 8 energy is connected to Capricorn, Saturn. This is like people who are attracted to the depth in life, where it's not, yeah, we like, instead of living like horizontally, you guys live vertically, or you try to. And 8 energy, sometimes you can even see it in the number, but like if you look at an 8, it's this figure 8, it's like an infinity sign, and it's actually closed. Like, it is not an open number, it is self-contained, and it's 2 circles. Um, and one circle is light, and one circle is darkness.
Ooh, yeah, I
So
know that.
all
Oh,
so all 8s will have this experience, and sometimes you lament it. You become the victim of your own pattern. You're like, oh, here it comes, the darkness. And you have to go into it, and it's like, not necessarily like it's like dark night of the soul energy always, but it's like you really have that thing about, you have to keep walking through it. Like, it's whatever the life experience is, if it's trauma, if it's challenge, if it's gifts, like, you have to go fully through it. Where other people would be like, okay, I've visited this place, now I'd like to leave. Most eights are like, no, I'm building I'm building my house here. Like, I'm living in this energy. Knowing kind of like that light follows dark and dark follows light, that like you really enjoy the lightness in life because you really know that it is not forever. that the darkness comes to like bring juxtaposition. And also, like, I find with many eights is like you need to digest. Sometimes you do it quickly, but like you really need to digest your experiences. They kind of need to marinate inside that eight energy. And then when it comes out of you, like I can say something and then you'll come back in a couple of months or whatever, and you'll be like, that thing you said. And you'll talk about it, and I'll be like, that is not quite what I said. This is what you have digested it into. Like there's a little alchemist energy going on. I find with most eights, like cultivating a sense of humor is really important because you have to be able to laugh at some of the crazy stuff
Yeah.
that goes on. And you also have to find people that will allow you the space to go deep with things. So one of the harmful things that can happen for an eight is like if they're around what I would call like faster base numbers that are like moving on. Don't want to hear, you're a child and you're trying to explain what happened, I don't know, at kindergarten or something, and you like this whole thing, and your mom or dad are like, I just don't have the time. Yeah, this is nice, honey. Yeah, you're moving on. And you need someone to like witness and allow you to have that rich inner life. And
Wow,
also to
you're
be
you're like,
people who are like
this is my first experience with somebody reading by my, what did you call it, base
Mhm.
numbers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, base numbers.
So I must admit, I can recognize everything that you're saying, like loud
Mm.
and clear. It's like
Well, you're
you
also
read
an eight.
me.
It's very hard to like the thing is the day you were born and the year you were born are the two most important energies. And sometimes people retreat into the yearly energy. It can feel safer. It can just feel safer to not be fully us.
Mm.
So, but if you retreat into your four energy, that would just be more rebellious. It would be more like, I don't care what you think, and I'm a black sheep anyway, so I don't want to, like. So in that's why I call it a strong combination, because both energies are children of destiny, if we want to get like epic in here. But in numerology, the 8 and the 4 are also friends. So like you have, I guess, a friend in yourself.
You're
Like
so right. I love being with myself and not in a egotistical, central, way. It's just,
well, all eights you guys need a lot of alone time.
yes.
And I think a lot of alone time, sometimes people think, oh, so like she's going to be gone for weeks. No, but it's like, again, the depth of the alone time is important. The depth of it. You
Mm.
can go very far in maybe a short period of time, actually.
Mm. Oh, you're so right. Thank you for giving me that gift. I love it.
You are
And
welcome.
I must admit, I now I'm when you do like a complete numerology reading, if you wish, I don't
Session
know
or
what you call
reading.
it.
Yeah.
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 So how does that look? I mean, do you get, if I booked a session with you, how would that session
Mhm.
look? Would you go walk us through a session as a numerologist?
Well, we would start where we started right now. So we would start by explaining, how do you find your base number? So like, so I'm pointing to a number on a piece of paper and saying like, this is the number and this is how it plays out. And I would spend some time on the spectrum of that energy, because sometimes that's just so helpful. Can I identify when I'm slowly falling down my own spectrum? Can I identify the thoughts I have, the behaviors I have, what it might look like in specific relationships? Because as soon as I can identify it, gets so much easier to shift. And also, that what am I aiming for? Of course, I can't live some kind of like 110% level vibration, happiness, good vibes only all the time. You as an 8 should know that we
No.
need some valleys. We need some valleys. But like, what am I aiming for? And when do I get that yes feeling? When I like am presented with a person or opportunity or whatever. And then we would talk about your second base number, the one from the year you were born. So like, what are the signs of me retreating? Are there certain relationships where I live inside, where I'm not bringing my full eightness to the table? places where for you it would be like, can I be even more that? Spend even more time on it, go even deeper with it, be even like feel less that I have to explain myself at all. Like we would kind of map that out, and of course your zodiac sign does also like point to certain things. So if we got Scorpio energy, we got 9 energy, it's the mental warrior. It's a thing that certain things should be in shadow, will never be visited. And then we would move into your numeroscope. And that is a chart that is created by your current name and your birthday. And if you've had, like, if I had a client, which, you know, happens to women, we get married and then we take his name, then we get divorced and we go back to our maiden name, we marry again, whatever. Like, sometimes it's really interesting to see the journey of having those different names. And that, like sometimes I liken the base number to like a ray of light. So like your base number is the ray of light you're supposed to be. And that ray of light hits your name, and your name filters it, kind of like crystals, fractures the light. And we want your ray of light to be as strong as possible. And some part of your name might be like a little bit of a broken crystal. So the light gets fractured. You might see yourself differently than what, you know, it might be unclear. It might be the wrong mirror. And people might also react to you in a way that is not fully reflective of the core ray of light you are. And sometimes mapping out, like, who were you in that relationship when you took on his name and that energy and that crystal, if we're using that image, what happened? What was like amplified in your life? And then when you changed it, what happened then? Like, sometimes that's really just really nice to be validated and be like, oh, it's not all in my head, it's actually happening. Or like, I was attracted to him, but then I got his name, and then I was like, I don't know anymore. I often feel like also sometimes people get married after 10 years of relationships. They get married and they finally take whatever, his name or something, and then the relationship falls apart. And I'm like, yeah, because you, like, energetically certain things shifted, and that can totally, of course, shift the relationship. I'm all for, like, this is just you know, what do you call it, public service announcement. Don't take people's names
I'm
unless you
so
really,
happy you
really
said
love
that.
them.
You know what? You know what, Novalee? You keep confirming stuff that I've done throughout my life. When I said I've been so certain of not, when I got married, I would never take my husband's name because I had the energy of who I am. I thought that would be giving away or taking on something that was mine, or I had that preconceived, thought about that would limit me in some way without even knowing it. So I have my
Well, it
name.
would change something.
Yeah. So now you're explaining it to me in numerology's world. It makes complete sense why I would be feeling and sensing that. So I'm so happy you're saying that, because the effect of that, because I have a very, very happy marriage. But when people ask me, why don't you have your husband's last name? Because when we travel together, nobody knows that we're married. I mean, we have different names, but but we're still married. I mean, I still love my husband.
But it's just, I mean, it's on both levels. It's both like on a spiritual, energetic level. I think you should only do it if it's an upgrade. And sometimes I do have people who come to me and like thinking about getting married, blah, blah, or they go through a name change and then they're like, by the way, I went through this whole name change and changed everything, but I'm also thinking about getting married. Would it work with his new name? And as a numerologist, I'm a little bit like, honey, can we just do you for a while? Can you just enjoy this? And can you come back to me if it becomes a reality where you're actually thinking about it? And know that sometimes the expectation is just planted in you by society and culture, and not something that he or anyone actually has an expectation of you doing. Like, I understand fully that, like, I want to merge, I want to be one, I want to share a name, I want our children, our fur babies, whatever, I want everyone to have this name. Like, I understand. But you don't have to.
No, you're right.
I mean, I share, like, my last name is Wilder and my husband's last name is Ford. And those two names actually have the same name vibration. So if I wanted to, I could have taken his name or he could have taken mine. But we both looked at each other and I was like, I love you and I love your name, but I am not interested in being Novalee Ford. And he was like, I love you and I really like your name for you, but I don't want to be Dylan Wilder. And I was like, cool.
Well,
Cool. Like also sometimes I want to I want people to examine what is it that makes you feel like you want to do this? Is it some kind of expectation? Is it some kind of compromise? For what? Like what is underneath this? I just think like we shouldn't do things just because they've always been done that way.
let me ask you this, because I'm listening to you and my mind goes everywhere. I'm an 8, remember? So I'm like all over. So I was thinking about children coming to this earth and we're giving them names as early, and
Yeah.
and it should be a gift, and not everybody reads the energy or try to do their, think about the universal aspect of what we're doing.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm thinking coming into early childhood, or maybe late childhood, I guess, teenage years, and finding yourself. And I'm thinking maybe the society has made us that to get a passport, whatever, you need a name, right? So to
Yeah.
exist in this world, we need a name, an identity, or we can't travel, we can't do anything. But from a numerologist point of view, if we had, I'm just putting it out there, if we had given the opportunity for our children, given them a temporary name, and then when they come up
Mm.
to adulthood and said, now instead of doing a confirmation or going the religious way, saying, let's give you it's now up to you to find a name
Yeah, a
that
new name.
a new name that
I
we
think
can, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that are a little bit lost in modern society is the element of ceremonies and rituals and like the bridge, passage, whatever, like the journey from one thing, the initiation into a new thing. Lots of cultures work with name changes as part of like a rite of passage from child to teenager to adulthood, or and some of them are still done in our culture. Like for example, in most countries, it's easier actually to go back to your maiden name than it is to change to a new name. So we are aware the rite of passage that divorce can be, that maybe people want to go from one thing to the other. It's also getting easier and easier to correct your gender. And that can be also like if you correct your gender, usually a country will throw in a free name change on top of that. And more countries are also allowing like unisex names and more changes in general. Um, I have a lot of clients where I do baby names for them. So from the very beginning, we work with usually one of the parents' last names. That is my anchor for the rest of the calculations. And then this might also be a misconception, numerologists don't pick names. We pick name vibrations. And for each name vibration, there are hundreds, if not thousands of names. So I'll just give you like a list of names and be like, anything from this list will have the right vibration. You pick whatever fits for you. So yeah, working with babies, working with children, what people do, and we do it with our businesses. The patterns are just like when we name things, we pass on what we know. So you might name your child or your dog or your business or your house or your ship, whatever. You might name it something that has the same vibration that you have, even if it's not actually your name. And I also see that sometimes people will be like, can you just give me some good names? And I'm like, can't really do that. But I also know that if I give you a list of names that have a vibration that you don't know because you don't carry it and it's not in your family, you're probably not going to like the names so much.
You're right.
Because something energetically in you is going to be like, me, I don't know. And that is what happens in families and why families sometimes can be so challenging. Let's say you all share a last name, and that last name has some kind of effect. So when you all come together, there's a lot of that energy in the room. When you pick a partner, you might see that energy in him or her or them, and you go like, that, I know that feels like home, come to me. You create something together like a child, and you go, we have this energy together, let's pass it on. And it really is, I see that, like, sometimes, and sometimes it's gifts, I can see that, like, a parent insisted
Mm.
on a certain name, and that name carries a vibration that only that parent had. So, like, the other parent couldn't have kind of brought it up because they didn't know the energy. And sometimes those are gifts. Like, I do see sometimes that I think, oh, thank God for your dad, or thank God for your mom. It's like, they have to have this name. Yeah. And sometimes people, mess it up. Like, my mom told my dad before I got born, like I was born, she was like, your last name is too hard to spell. You have to change the spelling of it before we give it to our child. So my dad changed his last name before I was born. And effectively, he changed my life, and he changed his own, like, because energetically he shifted things.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think I give name change and names numerology an incredibly amount of power because I see that power every day. But of course, we have free will. Like, you are also in charge. Let's not, like, put
Of
it all
course,
on me.
but still, it is enlightening to know. I mean, to understand that, or to have that awareness of that
Yeah.
numbers and what's going on and the energy of things. And I've always said, or my spirit guide said to me once, do not be focused on the word. Be focused on the energy of the word. And that makes
Yeah.
sense now to me when you're explaining the vibration or the tonality of the names and what fits us and what resonates with who we are. To be honest,
Yeah.
I mean, it's we're talking about deep rooted core stuff, and I love it because I'm an 8. All right.
I've given you full permission with that 8 energy. You're like, yes.
I'm gonna use it now. Like when I go in
Mhm.
and my husband asks me, well, I'm an 8, so there you go. Love and darkness.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you said also I needed to have some laughters, right? To have some fun.
Yeah, but I think you already know that. Like, over
Yeah.
time, it's just like sometimes it's so ridiculous, and we also have to laugh at ourselves a little bit and go like, "Oh, here I go. Oh yeah, of course I wanted to do this with this thing," or like,
Yeah.
I had to go deep. I couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie. Like, I had to get in, sit with it. Like, I have a wonderful mother-in-law who is a double 8, which is just, then you can't run from it. And she is very, I just, part of the 8 journey is like, you gotta end up being comfortable with your own darkness. And so you become more comfortable with other people's darkness. And so you are usually really good at, or you get good at holding space.
Hmm.
And sometimes when she talks about what the stuff she does, like grief counselor and stuff like that, my inner energy says, oh my God, look, this is a little, can we leave? I'm good. Can't sit with it. But she gets, a certain kind of, pleasure is the wrong word, but it's the rightness in where she is when she gets to sit with people in the darkness and say, I've been sitting here for years, my friend. It is not so dangerous. Let's sit here together. Let me help you through it. Let me listen. And that's also, like, again, it's the gift. And sometimes we don't realize that, oh my God, this is my gift. This is why I'm drawn to these spaces or these people or whatever. This is why it doesn't drain me in the same way, or why I have certain opinions about how it should be done, because I know how it should be done. So yes, it's like, you guys got to claim that. I also think as the world moves faster and faster, sometimes we need people to slow it down and say, like, hey, you have to sit with this once in a while.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I know there's been some challenging years for many people, and
Mm-hmm.
um, many find themselves having to reinvent their life. And so, that is part of why I wanted to do this podcast. or this season on how to reinvent life, different practices and how we can do it. Because I've felt it too. I really had to go inside and reinvent how I chose to live my life. Energy wise, it's changed for me. And so I needed to, yeah, do some change in myself as well. But so, how can numerology help us change and for good?
Well, change starts from within. The more, this is so cliche, but the more you accept everything that is, like, I see it sometimes when I do tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique, and I don't even have to tap on like what I want to call in. I usually have to accept what's there. I can tap on just like, I accept that this is my income, this is my bedroom, this is my situation, this is my husband, this is my bathroom, this is my bills. Like I accept what is there and then I can move on from it. I find that like no matter what is happening, we kind of have to first say, yeah, this is the world right now. I can't wait for it to get better before I get better.
Oh, I like that. No.
It's just I have to accept that this is the world right now. And then I have to break whatever the goal is into smaller pieces and move through it. And I mean, in numerology, I see years and months and days all have energies as well. Like I do forecasts I could probably do them daily, but I am too fast for that.
Yeah.
Energetic. I'm like, no one has the time for that. We're moving on. Like, let's read about the month. But I do monthly forecasts and yearly forecasts. And here I can again see that whole idea of having a spectrum. Like accepting what is, and this is the spectrum we're all moving through. For right now, we're moving through a 6 year. So it's all about love and the juxtaposition with love. And if you were born, anyone listening, if you're born on a day that adds up to 6, this has to do with your life goals. When we have to deal with love and learn about love, many of our lessons will be about what is love not. What is it not? What does it not feel like? What does it not look like? Some people say the opposite of love is hate. I say it's usually indifference. If I don't care at all, then there is no love. If you hate someone, you probably actually have some kind of connection to them or some kind of acceptance issue with them. So numerology, I use it, yes, for myself and for my acceptance of who I am. And then I look at what am I moving through? What is coming my way? What is, like whenever I write those forecasts, I set a reminder to send them to myself a little later in the month so I can read them again, like if someone else wrote them, and be reminded of like, oh, right. Sometimes when we channel, we can hear, oh, this is for me. And other times we're like, oh, this is for the collective. And we don't pay attention. And then we come back and we go like, this is gold. Who wrote that?
Yeah, I know.
I should listen. Yeah. So like, I want to raise the vibration of the world. I'm kind of doing it one name change at a time. I'm training people to do what I do. Part of what I see numerology do is that like permission to be you and pursue whatever you want to do through that. So you're not a carbon copy of anyone. It shouldn't look like anyone else's life. And it took me a long time to realize that if I really wanted to change my life, I had to stop following. And that was very scary because if I wasn't following, then I am leading. There might be no one following me. Like in the beginning, no one was following me. But like after a while, I was like, oh, wow, if I'm not following other people, then I'm leading. And that gives me a certain kind of courage also to try things out. And a certain kind of responsibility for what I share about the journey. And this is also, I want to say, sometimes the only way to be truly brave in your life is to stop following.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I felt like it took me forever. I'm sure some people are like, oh, you did it so early. I'm like, no, I did not. I did not. I followed for years and years and years because I didn't know how to stand on my own.
Well, I
Yeah,
must say, I have had an amazing time with you, Novalee. I love
covered a
your
lot of
energy.
stuff.
And I must, this conversation has really brought light into my life. So thank you so much for that. And
You're so welcome.
before we end our conversation, um, would you say something about what you offer people? Like, I'm going to make sure that your
Sure.
website is in the episode description so people
Yes.
can just go down and click the link. But how can people get in contact with you?
So I have a podcast. It's called the Numerology Podcast. Very basic, I know, but no one had taken it, so I took it. So if you want to listen to me, then you should check out the Numerology Podcast. I have a website. I offer sessions one-on-one from the very small investment to the maybe bigger investment. I also offer training. And yeah, through the Numerology School. And then I wrote a book called A Little Bit of Numerology, and it's pink and cute. And you can get it everywhere and you can order it online. And it's a great intro to Chaldean numerology, which is the form of numerology that I use. There are different schools of thought in numerology. And I also want to, like, if what I talked about in this podcast didn't resonate, then maybe Pythagorean numerology is more your speed. I just want to say, like, sometimes you need to find the right teacher, the right way of they interpret the things. But I use Chaldean numerology, and A Little Bit of Numerology is a really good book to like learn a little bit about your base number, and also, I mean, read about your high school crushes, read about your favorite teacher, like start looking at the patterns in your life. It is so rewarding when we understand, oh, I don't keep just picking bad men, I keep picking this number. If I don't think about it as like bad men, what is it that I'm attracted to about this number? Like, what is it that I need to like learn and allow and look out for? Maybe I should look at other numbers and other energies. And I mean, to me, it's also the it's gives you info and it makes you more aware. Yeah. So these are the things I offer. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and what have you, of all the where the young kids are. So if you want to follow me there, for sure. But the book is really good.
Well, thank you again. And before we end the conversation, is there anything you would like to share with the audience of inspiration or anything, empowerment?
I think I just want to say that you are not who you think you are. I saw that. I just want to add, like, we are, like, you are allowed to change, and maybe a name change would be part of that. But like, so much of our energy is tied up in patterns of like, we think we are this person that does that thing, and it's your ego, and you forget that you are just spirit having a human experience, and you keep saying in your head, I'm the kind of person who does this, and that, and you're not who you think you are. And the more that like settles in, the more it allows you to like do different things, expand, change paths, like, and not judge yourself for it. Also, a lesson I had to learn, like, I don't fail, I just learn. And sometimes I got to learn a lot in a certain direction, fail a lot in a certain direction to learn whatever it is. So just, you're not who you think you are, and you never fail, you just learn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me and sharing your calling with us. I truly admire your dedication. And I appreciate how you show up in this world. I mean, you're dedicated. So thank you for being the light. You truly are the light. So thank you, Novalee.
Thank you.
And to you watching or listening, I'm grateful for that you're here with us. And remember that when you sign up for the Spiritual Quest Newsflash, you'll receive bonus materials and invitation to live events. So make sure you'll join the conversation by visiting the Spiritual Quest podcast page. You'll find the link in the episode description. Sending you love and light from me, your host, Vibeke, and Novalee, always guided by spirit. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.